Imagine a Real Madrid team where Kylian Mbappé doesn't have to drag the attack alone. Where Vinícius Jr presses instead of waiting.
You cannot catch him! Scoring goals for fun! Who needs Mbappe? They got Vinícius Jr.
And where 19-year-old Arda Güler controls the tempo against Europe's best. That's not fantasy, it's this season. A team that was falling apart just months ago now looks more unified and structured than ever. How did Alonso rebuild the identity of the world's most glamorous club into a relentless pressing machine? This is the story. Why would Real Madrid, a club defined for decades by its Galacticos, suddenly embrace collective pressing football? A team built on moments of brilliance from global stars was now charging forward like a single block, closing passing lanes and suffocating opponents. For many supporters, it felt like a strange departure from the old way of seeing Madrid win. Wait for an individual act, hope for a spark, then celebrate. But under Xabi Alonso, that long-standing habit was no longer enough. The need for structural change didn't appear out of thin air. Last season exposed it in painful detail. Madrid could still score goals, but too often their defensive shape cracked open. Matches that should have been controlled turned chaotic in the final minutes. Opponents exploited the gaps between midfield and defense, and the team frequently relied on Courtois or Lunin to save desperate situations. In the Champions League, even modest pressing sides cut through Madrid with one or two sharp passes because the structure broke down whenever the front three hesitated to track back. It wasn't just about losing games, it was about the lack of any clear, repeatable method of control. When Alonso walked in, skeptics questioned everything. Could players like Mbappe and Vinícius, each with marketable names and individual stats, really commit to the grind of running without the ball? Would the stars that represented Madrid's brand come to accept chasing opponents across 70 meters, winning ugly duels, and sprinting back when possession was lost? For many, the fear was that asking these players to defend actively would drain them, leave them flat, and take away the explosive attacking threat Madrid depended on. But Alonso made one thing non-negotiable: pressing was the foundation. It didn't matter how much flair a player carried or what history they had as showpiece scorers. If the ball was lost, they had responsibilities. Mbappe pressed from the front, Vinícius covered wide lanes, and the midfield compacted zones. Suddenly, superstar forwards weren't hanging on the halfway line waiting for one long pass. They were running back into lines, recovering the ball, and then striking forward again at pace. Think of Alonso's role here less like a coach demanding fitness and more like a mentor guiding a wounded hero. Madrid had all the weapons in the world, but it lacked the shape to wield them correctly. The new manager effectively said, "You've relied too long on instinct. Now, fight smarter." In other words, the Galacticos needed teaching. Alonso wasn't discarding the skills that made his squad glamorous, but he was reshaping them into tools for something larger than individual flair. And the first evidence that it worked was striking. In the opening 3 games of the league season, only 1 goal conceded. Compare that to long stretches of the previous year, when Madrid's penalty area felt exposed weekly. The defense wasn't just tighter because Militao and Carvajal returned from injury, though that did help.
He's hand to the season. Well, that's not quiet. That is some beautiful noise.
It was compact because the press gave it air to breathe. Madrid were hunting as a coordinated unit again, not as a scattered group of stars improvising. Still, Alonso's transformation wasn't only tactical diagrams on a board. He was asking these players to break habits built across careers. For a decade, fans had been conditioned to expect Madrid wins delivered by last-second goals or a moment of dribbling brilliance. Now the team celebrated running together, defending together, winning turnovers together. The ordeal wasn't learning pressing patterns, it was unlearning instinctive reliance on flashes of individuality. That is what made Madrid's new identity so striking. Systemic ruthlessness had replaced the culture of waiting for brilliance. The shift marked the clearest break from their Galactico past in decades. And yet, pressing patterns and defensive stats were only the first chapter. The true test became how stars like Mbappe and new blood like Güler thrived within that same demanding framework. How do you take the world's most expensive attacker and make him work harder off the ball than ever before? For Kylian Mbappé,
they have the best striker in the world for me right now, Kylian Mbappé, the best.
The adjustment was not just about scoring goals, but leading the press, setting the tone, and becoming the first defender in Xabi Alonso's new Madrid.
Kylian Mbappé is now pressing the ball. He is being the leader that Luis Enrique asked him to be, to initiate the pressing from the front and to be very aggressive in looking to win the ball back, because when Mallorca was passing the ball out of the back from their goal kicks,
instead of being stationed as a poacher waiting for service, he was pulled into a role that demanded constant movement, intense recovery runs, and a fierce appetite for chasing down defenders. The idea sparked plenty of doubts in the early weeks. Analysts wondered if repeated sprints at opposition backlines would dull his sharpness in front of goal. Critics argued that deploying Mbappe as a pressing spearhead rather than a free-flowing striker risked taking away what made him the most dangerous forward on the planet. Could he maintain his clinical edge while spending half his energy winning the ball back? That question hovered every time Madrid lined up. The first answers came on the biggest stage available in early season, the Club World Cup. Madrid pressed high as a unit, and Mbappe was at the heart of it. One passage stood out. Vinícius hunted a fullback near the sideline. Mbappe intercepted the pass inside, and within seconds, Madrid turned it into a goal. It wasn't individual brilliance in isolation, but a coordinated trap executed perfectly. These moments began to show that pressing could actually create scoring chances rather than limit them. Alongside this, a new presence started to shape Madrid's tempo in open play. At just 19, Arda Güler slid into the side not as a project for the future, but as a steady link between midfield and attack in the present. His vision turned defensive recoveries into fast transitions. Calm on the ball, he resisted being rushed even when pressed, and that composure gave Madrid a new rhythm going forward. Against opponents sitting in deep rows, his angled passes and quick switches created the gaps for Mbappe and Vinícius to attack. Anchoring behind them was Aurelien Tchouameni. His role rarely grabbed headlines, but it carried the whole balance of Alonso's design. Whenever Güler pushed higher and the front three pressed wide, Tchouameni covered the vacated spaces, cutting angles and collecting loose balls. Without his positioning, Madrid's attempts to press would unravel the moment the opposition slipped a pass through the first line. Instead, he became the stabilizer, the pivot who made the aggression up front sustainable. The entire setup resembled moving parts in a machine. Mbappe functioned as the finisher, the one who applied the final touch. Güler acted as the engine, dictating pace and ensuring the machine never slowed. Tchouameni was the stabilizer, making sure it all stayed in balance when the system tilted forward. When operating together, the team no longer relied on a solo act to spark life. They moved like gears in a connected mechanism, each pushing the other. Still, there was one significant doubt: Vinícius Jr. Adapted as a dribbler who thrived beating one man and exploding in space, he now had to wrestle between that instinct and defensive commitment. Some fans noticed lapses, like in the Mallorca game where his pressing intensity slipped below Alonso's demand. The question was whether he could consistently apply himself as part of the defensive front three. So far, the results suggest the gamble has worked. 2 clean sheets and only 1 goal conceded in the first stretch of league games, all while Mbappe sits near double figures in combined goals and assists. The pressing hasn't drained him, it has sharpened him. He's no longer isolated waiting for service, he's helping regain the ball in dangerous spaces, then finishing attacks seconds later. And this shift marks something bigger. Madrid is no longer built on individuals who wait for their chance. Instead, every role feeds into one mission: collective dominance. For Alonso's Madrid, the road forward is not about a single savior, but the squad moving together as one.
Becoming Madrid's coach, Alonso's been like a player, joining drills and constantly stepping in to correct mistakes.
Real Madrid's transformation under Xabi Alonso shows that modern dominance isn't about individual stars carrying the weight. It's rooted in structure, pressing, and a squad willing to sacrifice for each other. A club once famed for collecting names now thrives through unity and relentlessness. Analysts are already describing this Madrid as terrifying for the rest of Europe, and the numbers suggest why. With an average age of just 26, the balance of youthful energy and prime experience points to years of sustained power. If this is only year 1, how much stronger will Alonso's Madrid look in Europe soon?